The UFOs?
Vimana.
Vimana?
Vimana. Yes, the aircraft documented in the Ramayana and the subsequent Mahabharata of India.
And and that goes back. How far back does that go?
Well,
Pretty far back. I mean, we're talking about some of the oldest traditions on the planet, right?
we have we have we have the scriptures which go back the past 10,000 years. Okay? But we have documentation going back millions of years,
Okay.
and and that's the difficulty with this is the same as discussing, say, like was mankind fabricated by the Pleiadians or something like that. Have
Mm-hmm.
you familiar with?
Or like sort of like the Anunnaki, like
Uh-huh.
splicing genes and
Right. And the problem with this is type thinking is it still doesn't answer any questions of our using our known concepts of dimensional reality. Um, for instance, the Pleiadians or the Anunnaki, right, would still be limited to time and space,
mm,
and they'd experience birth and death,
okay, yeah, carbon life, sure,
right?
yeah,
So when you have um, a spiritual ideology based on something like that, it's still on the materialistic platform.
mm,
It doesn't really answer the
mm.
it doesn't really answer your
It
questions.
doesn't go very deep, does it? It's a very surface level thing.
Right.
I yeah,
There's because really we all want to know why are we here.
right,
You were talking about what happens after death.
yeah. That's instead of are there aliens here? It's more importantly, why are we here? What?
We're in the time frame of
Yeah,
Kali Yuga. The aliens are also in the time frame of Kali Yuga.
they're also subject to the universe.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There's the Hindu scriptures speak of, you know, 600 and I think 87 or something different types of people,
Hmm.
you know, species of man.
Okay.
Uh, Obviously, there's not that many here on planet Earth right now, you know, but still, it wouldn't matter because we would all be experiencing birth and death. There would be between us and God, the demigods, right? And there's Brahma, and he lives like there's 10,000 years for every 1 year of our time, and he experiences all the dimensions of the material universe. You know, that's a multi-dimensional level. You know,
Hmm.
but still, there's a beginning and an end.
So also,
There's
yeah,
suffering by being entangled in this. But Krishna is not entangled. We're part and parcel of Krishna.
okay,
You know, like the sunshine's part and parcel of the sun. You know, the sun's responsible for the sunshine, not the opposite.
right.
You
I
is
follow.
that is
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
and that's where your I that's how your ideas of solar worship led to monotheism in Hindu philosophy and thus Krishna consciousness. It's the actual first monotheistic religion,
Hmm.
uh, and you would see that in the symbol of the swastika, the sun wheel, right, and even the Sig Heil that the Nazis did was in a perverted attempt to use solar worship to
Hmm.
gain power from the
Wow.
sun. It's to be considered. The time period that the Bible documents, we're talking about the beginning of Kali Yuga, and that's the age of quarrel, and that's the time that we're in today,
Hmm.
and it's actually the opposite of the first Yuga. First Yuga was paradise. In Kali Yuga, we're in the most degraded state. It's all coming to an end.
Yeah.
You know, because just like you know there to be a beginning and end of yourself, there's a beginning and end of ever of the creation.
Hmm. It's a profound thing to think about.
Yes,
It's the most profound thing to think about.
it's disheartening, really.
I agree.
Except that's because Western materialistic science has taught you to identify with the body.
Hmm. Well,
The body is subject to the constraints of time and space, and you are not the body.
I agree. My concern is more the ego, my remembrance. Like I don't want to lose who I am, even even if life continues and I don't have the same body. What terrifies me is the loss of self, and that's just my ego talking, and that's just something I'm just gonna have to get over. But it's sad.
Well, it it's understandable. That's that's why people lament. We're suffering.
Mm.
And again, the same as we were talking about years. I'm talking about class. One life you're born a wealthy man, the next life a peasant. If you're in Krishna consciousness, you stay level uh, despite what you may or may not have.
Mm.
You remain you, constant.
Mm.
No, um, swimming steadily in a ocean that sometimes has calm waves and sometimes the waves become turbulent.
So it's not even a lack of ambition. It's just you just don't kick yourself like if something doesn't go your way.
It's you certainly must make the attempt, but the key is not to have attachment to the
Mm.
results.
Oh, okay.
And you know from any art project, you do something 10 times, 9 times it fails, and things don't launch off, and finally that one time it does, and that's what makes it worthwhile,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. On a similar line of thinking. What does happen when we die? you know, many men claim to know, but we're all acting on faith. We're all children here, and some people have a better idea than others. But I'm just interested in hearing everyone's perspective on it.
Well, again, if you're not viewing it on the bodily platform, or even the platform of the ego that you were referring to,
Mm.
once you let go of the ego, and that doesn't mean to just not not have awareness of yourself, or to be rude or thoughtless or callous or what. No, is the understanding that you are eternal. You're not your permanent spirit soul is not going to attain happiness with just temporary material things. In any situation, whether you're the futuristic space alien from the Pleiades, or the lowly
We're all
peasant.
human in that regard.
It's the only way that one can have
Yeah.
equality. On the
Mm.
platform of the soul, there's equality. On the bodily platform, and people are very troubled by it today. That's why you see the rise in identity politics and whatnot. And it's because the materialists are unable to provide satisfactory uh, answers to why people should be treated equally. On the material platform, we're not equal.
When you say equal, what does that mean in practice? What would that world look like if everything were what is let me back up.
I
What
think
does
that
equality look like?
I've legally, obviously, we're talking, by the law, but what in today's woke terms is equity,
Okay,
right?
that's
We want
uh, yeah.
equality of outcome.
Okay, that we're on the same page.
Isn't that the understanding?
Or when- I'm sorry, no, equality of opportunity.
I believe Krishna will give equality of outcome to everyone,
I think regardless.
regardless.
Okay, so it really so as humans though, I think we should be more focused on equality of
It's
opportunity.
actually the ego that would get in the way of us realizing that equality of outcome. If I worship Krishna with sincerity, and you worship Krishna with we're all going to get the same equality of outcome.
Okay.
You know, uh, give or take to the amount of devotion that we put into it.
Okay. So that kind of answers my question about what happens when we die. Back on the equality thing, um, I think what's important in this life for the individual is the agency to make your own decisions. And so what that ends up meaning is that everyone is not going to end up equal.
Well, it goes beyond. It goes beyond that. Uh, that becomes a definition of life,
Yeah.
right? So then why are we applying it to just people? Why are we not applying it to the animals?
In what way?
Well, what makes your life more important than, say, the life of a innocent animal?
Well, the answer would be strength, right?
That's sure. That's a and we could if
And that's us looking at the animals.
right.
in the way they behave.
We could apply that to humans as well and have in the past,
Hmm.
not to very good
Well,
results.
I mean,
You
I
know,
think
people could justify slavery and all sorts of behavior, right?
yes, and I get your point. I think uh, equality of opportunity for humans, because I'm a humanist. I'm not necessarily. Uh, I don't look at life as equal. I look at humans as something uh, elevated above animals, and I have a large ego. If you haven't noticed,
Yeah.
um, but that is my perspective, and I think being a human, I have humanity's interests at heart more so than I do
Well,
other
let's.
species. I'm very tribal.
I once I never want to bore you, but
Okay.
let's
No, I'm not
look
bored at
at
all.
it in
Yeah.
the other direction that you were going in with the say like the aliens, coming down in the Vimana, the UFOs, right?
Who are these little
And
ants?
right,
Yeah.
right to them, we would be the
Animals.
right.
Yeah, the livestock.
And I'm sure you're aware of like Stephen Hawking, even saying in his final essay, right? That, you know, might not be such a smart idea to let anybody out there know that we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
If
know,
they're advanced enough to get here and like
yeah,
check on us, we're fucked already.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna be far superior to our technology, right?
Yeah. I'm um I'm interested. We were talking about this a minute ago, but I'm interested in UFOs, obviously, but I'm interested in more people becoming aware of it and becoming a more commonly known thing. Like I think in like our lifetimes, we're gonna see a dramatic shift in people's perspective about our reality and like how things work. You know, because I think the elite superpowers hold a lot of information above our heads that they don't want us to have, but eventually it's not going to be contained anymore, and we're seeing this more and more. And eventually, it's just the bubble's just going to burst on all things. No secret is held forever. All things come to a head like that eventually. So I'm definitely interested in seeing that come to fruition, even if that means the downfall of man. Like I think it's better to know, and that's let's get even more philosophical about that. I think it's better to die and know than it is to live and be oblivious, which may be a completely incorrect mindset, but it reminds me poetically of the garden with the snake and the apple, where it's like you can choose to know and die, or you can be oblivious and here in paradise. It's like, well, I guess I'm the human in that scenario because of curiosity. It's better it's better to have known. And maybe I'm just young. Maybe I'll regret that one day. That's my perspective. We ought to know about aliens. If you're listening, government, tell us about aliens and spirits and shit. Even if you think it'll be bad for us, do it anyway. Chaos. It would be chaos. It'd be culture shock. Things would be insane. People would start questioning their religions and like their belief structures. And I think ultimately that'd be a good thing. Ultimately, after the dust settles, it'll have been worth it. What do you think?
Uh, you're referring to specifically the public becoming aware of.
I guess the nature of reality more so than they are
Uh,
on like a mass scale.
what I was I had my mind went in two different directions during uh, your comments. Two different tests, if you will,
Hmm.
of human inclinations. Well, one was if the body can be cloned and the intelligence uh, captured and downloaded body by body, and you could be live forever, right? Um, would you be condemning yourself forever to this inferior material life instead of going on to
Yeah.
be and two is the creation of a Maya or illusion by mankind. Uh, once once we combine virtual reality with, say, a game like Fortnite, right, uh, and Google geography and roads and maps, the maze that you like to have, know where you're going
Hmm.
on, right?
Hmm.
Once we combine those, and then everyone's interconnected to this, because it's much safer than uh, really having sex or really fighting a war, right? um, won't we somehow or another become lost from the reality?
From
What
yeah.
is what is an actual life, right? Once we've successfully established the matrix, and you combine the two, what are you actually keeping it alive? You know, a living organism, that's running a mate. And again, what separates the living from the a rock?
Yeah. What separates the living from the dead? Maybe they're just not in the matrix. They took the headset off.
I would say that that's the evidence of Krishna.
Yeah.
That spark of God consciousness. You know, because even on a mathematical platform, you have to admit, if you could live for an eternity, what is an eternity? What's the highest number you can imagine? What? I
Hmm.
mean, how long is that, right?
Right.
It's unlimited. It's actually not,
Hmm.
but it's unlimited to us because it's beyond what our brains can fathom. The Pleiadians or the Enochians, they may know, but we don't know, right? To our little minds, it's unlimited, right?
Right.
So Krishna has to appear so that he can be understood, not just for all people, but for all times.
Hmm.
What would make sense, and say, in 5,000 years ago, wouldn't necessarily make sense now. Customs change.
Right.
Relationships change, nation states change, right?
Hmm.
As as to be a story that shares a philosophy for not just, particular group, but for everyone for all times.
Right.
I mean, that's agreed, right, by the
Yeah.
nature of the philosophy if it's a authentic holy scripture. You, it's, I mean, it should really be tested.
Hmm.
Um, which the final stage of Kali Yuga, interesting enough, goes with the age of Aquarius, right?
Okay.
Which
It began at the same time.
I believe started, like in not too long ago
Oh, oh, oh. Yeah. Age of
on the
Aquarius
calendar time.
is the one that happened like 100 years ago. Age of Pisces is the one that happened
Pisces
before that.
is before.
Yeah.
Aquarius is the one that
No.
we've gone into.
Recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting on that. Not to cut you off too much, but um, it's interesting. Uh, you're familiar with Aleister Crowley a little bit. Um, he um, he went to the Great Pyramid in Giza, and he heard
I bet. uh,
what?
that's great.
Yeah, he went to the Great Pyramid in Giza, and he
That's it's a great thing to picture. Look
right.
like I'm imagining like Merciful Fate doing the soundtrack to that vacation. Or,
Well, it gets better because over the
or
course of 3 days, he I believe at either at the pyramid or at his hotel room after visiting the pyramid. I like to imagine he did this in the pyramid because that's a much better picture.
sure.
But he received the Book of the Law from Horace,
All right.
um, and that is the Book of the Law is the the Thelemite uh, Bible, you could say. That's Crowley's book. Um, and when he did this, he declared the death of Christianity, and this was in 1914, the year Franz Ferdinand was shot. Some people like to put the age of Aquarius in 1914. Some put it at 1910.
My calculation goes along with that of Yogi Bhajan,
Where's he put it at?
and you just have to look it up. If I'm not mistaken, it was in, 2014.
Oh, really recently?
It was very recent,
Oh,
and
wow.
uh, but that's why the hippies were singing about we were entering the age of Aquarius or whatnot. It was supposed to
Oh,
be a time of enlightenment,
interesting.
and and I think it is.
We're yes, I believe so.
I think
I,
the equity that people are wanting, and all the positive change we want to see happen, it is happening. You know, it's one thing. Technology, uh, these computers, for instance, that gives everyone, no matter what their wealth is, right, access to every book, every song, every film, every newspaper, everything's in their pocket,
yeah,
right?
right.
It
Everything.
used to just be the wealthy kid had the encyclopedias or the cool books or the cool games, or you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying. So um, as far as equity, as far as equality of outcome, Uh, it, it it is occurring.
Hmm.
You know, maybe not it.
Sure, I don't think equality of outcome is a bad thing. I just, well, it's only a bad thing if not everyone wants the same things, right? Because I don't have the same value structure as the next guy. So like, what his ideal world and his ideal what makes him comfortable and happy is going to be different based on each individual, which is where the equity comes into play because it's obviously obviously someone in a wheelchair that's disabled, you don't treat them the same as you treat someone who, I mean, like you wouldn't, just logic, right? Like you wouldn't expect them to like go up the stairs. You would take like you that wouldn't be an option for them.
You and everyone else would say that, but then you would walk past a crippled man living underneath the bridge and do nothing, right? How many times have you done that?
Sure.
Why?
Um, what would be the other
I mean,
option?
I'm not trying to put you on the
No, I
spot.
mean,
I'm just saying,
no,
it's
sure.
kind of like the
Valid
example with that
question. What would
the
be?
animals. It's like what there's a reason for all
I think
this.
it's a valid question, and my answer would be, what would be the alternative? What would I do?
Well, I think we are you asking me what
What would
should
be?
you do
What
or
should I
what?
do?
I mean,
What what could I do?
and we're not saying you or I
I'm
as
sorry.
people, but as
Not what would I do?
right.
What should I do in that situation? I didn't mean to put you on the spot. As the question is, what would you do if you saw a homeless man under the bridge? I don't see how that correlates. What I'm saying is, you okay? People have different needs, so you don't treat people exactly the same because people have different needs. You don't treat a child the same way you treat an adult. You don't treat a woman the same way you treat a man in every instance. In many ways, you do, but there are certain, like, you don't treat a disabled person in exactly the same way you would treat, not like you have to give them some sort of special attention, but like, okay, for example,
I
a
would
deaf
say
person, right?
I would say you're doing it for one out of pity,
No, what I
and the
mean,
other you don't pity, right?
it's not pity.
I
What I mean is if I'm talking to a deaf person, I'm not going to expect them to hear me when I'm sitting next to them. Like, if I know you can hear me even though I'm looking this way, if you were deaf, I wouldn't treat you exactly the same way. You know what I'm saying? That's not out of pity. It's just reality. That's how it is. So, talking about equality of outcome, we all don't need the same things. We need different shit. So, what we should be focused on is equality of opportunity. Everyone has the same potential. We can all strive for the things we want instead of getting the same shit. That way, I can get what I want, you can get what you want, and that other guy can get what he needs. You know, that's the way I look at it.
the and it's not that one way would be bad or one way would be good. It would be that in either situation, you're choosing attachment to materialism, and that attachment is what brings about the suffering.
Maybe we don't have different needs, we have different wants. We all want different things, right? And maybe that's not what we need. You know, we don't need those things we want, but in our society that we live
Well,
in this world.
that's what we were talking about Kali Yuga,
Hmm.
right? In Kali Yuga, everything's backwards. Sweet things taste bad, bad things taste sweet. right? The culture has become jaundiced, right? Bitter, and sweet things they don't want anymore,
Hmm.
right? It's and because we're limited, it's like a dark. There's just darkness. Then any direction you look is unlimited, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
It's very vast. Yeah.
even on the platform of say like reincarnation, right? You would say, well, how long would that go on? Just being born over and over and over and over, right?
Mhm.
To our minds, it's limitless. There's no happiness in that.
I don't find any comfort in the idea of reincarnation, but that's again my ego talking. Like I don't like the idea of being someone else. I'm happy with who I am, I guess, even though I have my flaws.
It's a hellish, miserable situation.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously.
yeah. To lose yourself, it's something I guess we all have to come to terms with, but it still doesn't. That it's it. I have a hard time finding any comfort in it. It's a scary thought for me.
And so if we were talking about again, then we get back to say like the animals
Hmm.
or the man living underneath the bridge,
Hmm.
right? There's no guarantee once you no longer accept the body and the soul as being one, and that you're the spirit soul, and the body you're just discarding and you're going on to the next, to the next thing, right? There's no guarantee you're gonna be human,
Hmm.
right? Out of many millions of births, right? Occasionally you win the lottery and you come up human.
Hmm.
Then what's the one thing that makes humans different than say, you know, monkeys and gorillas beneath us, right?
There's a few things, but I think what you're kind of getting at is grass is always greener kind of thing. Like we always look at how we could be better instead of being content.
No, no, no,
Oh, sorry.
no. There's nothing. But I was thinking even above that. What what brings us the greatest joys of life? Why are we able to sit and listen to a song or watch a film and a monkey's not entertained by it?
It's I don't know what you'd call it, but there's something that separates us. Yeah.
That's we what separates us from the animals really is our ability um to have give philosophy
Hmm.
to material creation.
Yeah.
It's the potential for a God consciousness.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, in a nutshell, right?
Sure. So the getting away from the animal and becoming more of you're reaching that higher mindset.
Well, then there becomes the real need to panic. Changes your view of everyday life
Hmm.
because again, how long am I going to live? You know, a day, 10 years, 100 years. You're right. Well, then what? I die and I can become millions of other things and take birth and grow old, get diseased, and die. And on and on and on and on and on. But here I am. I'm human this time. I have the potential this life to live in righteousness. That's kind of deep, right?
It's really fucking deep. Yeah. It's also what I like about your philosophy and that outlook is it's really bittersweet. Like it's not heaven. It's not you live good here so you can get a reward. This is your reward right now,
Right now.
right now, and you appreciate that. And um, it's really easy for me to lose sight of that sometimes. That's how fortunate I am. I've had
Our poorest people in America today eat better than the King of England did 500 years ago.
really.
You know, there was a, yeah. It, what we're doing was not even considered possible.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Again,
Yep.
technology is bringing about it, equity of outcome.
How much longer do you give the human race if the world doesn't end on its own before we die? Or do you think the universe? Do you think we will end ourselves physically on this planet through
Um,
through some kind of war, or do you think the world will collapse before then?
Eventually, I believe that we're all going to go back home to Krishna, and in the duration of that time, the material world's going to collapse
Oh,
and come to an end.
so I guess my question is, before that happens, do you think we might just blow ourselves up before all that comes to place?
Oh, okay. Again, I couldn't speculate on that because the I believe that we have blown ourselves up before,
Okay, so we'll
and
come
that
back.
well ultimately,
Yeah,
again it wouldn't matter if say like humanoids on Earth ceased to exist, we became extinct.
yeah,
There's as I said, there's 600 and something odd number of other human type creatures that exist.
right.
You know that could attain God consciousness.
So we've talked about how, I guess, we talked about why we're here and what happens when we die. But I'm interested to ask you more specifically, how did we come, how did humans come to be here physically? Not not the soul, but like were were we chimps? What how did man come to be on earth?
Are you referring to evolution?
I'm asking you.
Say like Darwinism? Does that, or do you mean why? Do you mean more in general, like why has life been impregnated into the material world? You know what I'm saying?
Not life specifically, but
Because
humans.
because on the platform that we're talking about, say humans don't need to exist.
Sure.
For that matter, Pleiadians don't need to exist. You know, or our planet doesn't need to. And I suppose one day it won't, will not. You know, um, in fact, the Vedas describe different kingdoms on different planets at different times, and the planets have actually been at war
Hmm.
with one another. So we could easily see that the natural resources on Earth running out, and the the elite of the Earth will be allowed to move to the new colonies on Mars, right? And that the direction we're going in.
That seems to be the direction. Yeah.
Right. So, but still, what regardless of which rock we live on, which island we live on, whatever. We're still experiencing birth, old age, disease, and death.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? That it so so there's no evangelical like prophecy going on in the Vedas. It's a timeline,
So
built
at
on a scale of literally billions of years.
at on that timeline,
Right.
I want to be specific here. I don't mean our souls. I don't mean the soul itself. The human body. How do you think humans, the upright bipedal man, come to be on Earth?
I don't know.
Well, none of us do.
I I I I do not know. I mean, if we ask where did life come from, I would say, life comes from life. Life comes
Hmm.
from Krishna. You know, how it specifically all went down.
Hmm.
I don't
Well,
understand because
yeah.
because let's say we go back to the first yuga we were talking about, the
Hmm.
golden age, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Even then, there's like several different types of humans
Okay.
on Earth simultaneously.
Okay.
Since then, science has proven that there
There
was
have been,
difference
yes.
at different points in time.
Right.
Neanderthals, Cro-Mags, and
Yeah.
a tribe of what appears to be 4 foot tall people in Indonesia, right?
And on the other end, Nephilim, giant
Right,
skulls. Smithsonian had hundreds of giant skulls destroyed.
right. So I there might have been much more variety in the populace than we feel comfortable to admit.
Hmm.
you know the answer behind the UFO question might be something that makes people feel uncomfortable, but for reasons they haven't yet to explore.
It might be us. It might have been something on Earth at one point, like our brothers or something. A more advanced brother, cousin.
Well, there's I don't know if you know it. There's stories of the Indonesia was a Dutch colony, and there's stories of that tribe of people living up until the 16th century when they were surrounded and driven into a cave. The last few, if you remember, they were slaughtered by the Dutch, and the ones who were remaining in the cave, they were set on fire.
Wow.
And to this day, there's occasionally reports that they still exist. And
Huh.
and maybe you never know, right? Maybe they do.
Hmm.
But up until recently, traditionally, scientists had said they had depopulated the Earth from, like, previously in 200,000 years ago. You know, now they recently, just this week, discovered from 200,000 years ago, official grave with ceremony of an infant child. So humans were much more uh, much more ancient than we care to believe.
Hmm.
So when you ask me that question, if say we were evolved from apes or something of that nature,
Yeah.
uh, it would that wouldn't matter to me, and I wouldn't.
It's neither here nor there.
Right.
Okay.
I
Understood.
I, I don't I don't really think that there's an actual need for religion and science when we're looking at the nuts and bolts of the matter for them to conflict.
Yeah.
It's two different subject matters.
Sure. Um, have you um had any encounters that with something supernatural, um, and I'm sure a lot of spiritual experiences could fall into that category. What I more mean is most people might call it a ghost story, and I don't think that's broad reaching enough for what I'm asking you. Um, have you ever had an experience you would consider supernatural?
Uh, in a, in a spiritual sense, or do you mean like a historical ghost type sense, or what? Because you know,
Just hit
I
me.
do have. Well, we're doing this in Nashville, and I did go out with a crew of friends here in Nashville uh, to a place called Chapel Hill
Yeah.
to look for a ghost, right?
Okay.
And we saw it, right?
You saw it.
You know the story about the ghost that?
Is that the cave, the Bell Witch?
No,
That's
no,
where's that at? That's not. That's a different place. I'm sorry.
that's a different place. Yeah,
Yeah.
Chapel Hill is, I think, down Nolensville Road.
Yeah. What's the story there?
I'm not really sure, right? But you go to the train tracks,
I don't
right?
know the
And
story.
there's a guy that was hit by a train and he was beheaded, and he's like headless, carrying a lantern that's swinging back and forth over the train tracks.
Okay.
And when you try to catch up with him, the closer you get to him, the further he keeps getting until he disappears.
Okay.
Do you know this story?
No, I've never heard this.
Well, that's the story.
That's the story.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were doing a public access show, and one of our first ideas was kind of like that, which people told us it wouldn't work, but it became that show, like the Ghostbusters show, right?
Okay.
Ghost Hunters or whatever,
Yeah.
right? We were way before Ghost Hunters. They wouldn't let us do the show, right? But our first idea was we were gonna, take our high cameras, right, and film all the. We tried to find stories from the old books, like 13 Ghosts and Jeffrey, and all those series of books they had when we were kids, right? Do you know? Are you familiar with these? It was like regional books,
Okay.
like it'd be like 13 ghost stories from Tennessee, 13 ghost stories from Georgia.
Oh, real stories.
Yeah, real stories, like
Yeah. Okay.
local,
Okay.
like
Okay.
like Bellwitch was one of them,
Okay. I got it.
as was Chapel. So our
Got it.
idea was, oh, we'll just
You
take a
made a
camera
list.
and yeah, we'll go check these places out and
Okay.
film whatever we see.
Hell yeah.
It won't matter if we see anything or not. It'll just be fun to, we weren't going to bring like equipment out or anything like
Hmm.
that. No, it was going to be like friends in the 90s camping out, and we'll film what we see and share it with everyone,
Yeah.
for better or worse, right? And so that was to figure out if we could do it or not. That was where we went, was Chapel Hill. I can't believe you never went.
I'm gonna go now.
Did you go to the statues outside Clarksville?
No, I've never been to Clarksville.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where 101st Airborne is.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee.
Okay.
The Tennessee side is called Clarksville, and the Kentucky side's Hopkinsville. Hopkinsville is where Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, he was born there, and it was where the Alfred Hitchcock movie The Birds was based on an incident from Hopkinsville. This is crazy place, man.
Ooh, okay.
So on the Tennessee side, there's this crazy artist guy that built all these statues called I think it's called the Palmyra statues, right? Maybe I want to say his name was Jack Panera, right? And through these crazy statues out in the middle of anywhere, and there was all sorts of ghost stories about this guy and his statues. They're really scary and creepy. They're still out there, so
Mhm.
kids used to go out there and drink and get high and desecrate the statues.
Okay.
You never.
No,
What about the Bell Witch? Did you go see the Bell Witch?
I haven't.
Because there was seriously there was like just before the quarantine on I think it was on the Dragon Park page or something. There was like a Bell Witch like camp out. All
Oh
these
yeah.
all these old punk rock kids got together and camped out
Oh man,
to see the Bell Witch one weekend.
that
So I
sounds
guess it was
cool.
like 2 years ago or something. I thought maybe you might have went to that.
I should get out more
It
into more
would have
stuff.
been cool to do a live broadcast from
Fuck
there.
yeah, man. I'm about it. Have you ever used a Ouija board?
Yeah, I don't put much credence in I do accept that those were just concocted by you know Parker Brothers
By
and
by John D.
yeah. Well, I don't know if I accept what he was doing as our classic Ouija board.
Mm.
Do you?
What he was doing was divination.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a little different. That's
it's a different board. Um, he had a talking table. It had a bunch of different
yeah.
letters on it, and he had a pendulum. So I mean, it's a very similar process. It's just it's in the mind. John Dee is a magician. He's he's a magician who had his instruments. This the table is your focus. That's what you're putting your effort into. The table could be made of cardboard. It could be imaginary. It doesn't have to be there at all. But it's a tool because you can look at it.
Well,
You can focus on it.
let's say like the concept of religion, and when we're looking at it, right? The Every temple had a magician because the audience then is going to see a show, right? And the temple with the greatest magicians, right, are going to be able to put on the most wonderful shows. They'll be able to do the most miraculous, unexplained acts, right?
A magic trick.
Of course,
Yeah,
of
an
course,
illusion.
an illusion, a
Hmm.
show, a performance, right?
That that is a thing. Yeah, charlatans.
It's well, you can look at it like that if you want because
Well, I do because I'm.
you want to see it on a material platform.
Well, I look at it that way
Well,
because I consider myself a real magician. So that to me, that is a charlatan.
well, what if we take away remove the veil and the separation um, between the theater and the temple?
Well, that's the difference between the flashy theater magic and real magic. Is real magic isn't flashy and pretty. It's
Well, that's that goes through. We were discussing film and David Lynch,
hmm
right? Doesn't it more reflect the audience that's attracted? I
oh
certain audiences are going to be attracted to the superficial, and when we
yeah
say that, that would probably be the majority,
yes I agree.
right? It's going to
Sheeple yeah
right.
yeah
That's to be expected.
hmm I agree. That's why I understand why things like organizations like Jehovah's Witnesses exist. Like a lot of people need that safety net, that comfort of
You know what? It's wrong, but it's not wrong headed. You
no,
know,
it's
when
really not.
you look at today, um, there's actual evil in the name of religion. Well, you know,
Hmm.
Joel Osteen,
Yeah. Hmm.
right? I mean, that's actually harmful to people.
Hmm.
It's cheating them of their money, but also their actual spiritual life. That's the worst kind of huckster.
Yeah.
You know, it's con artist, magician. You know, but with the people's spiritual lives.
Hmm.
I mean, it's really the greatest evil.
I agree.
It's the bait and switch.
That's why I call them charlatans. When I talk about magic, I'm not a charlatan. I've experienced things. That's why I kind of was asking you about ghost stories. I was trying to get into them a
Well, it
little
doesn't
more.
have to be a negative thing. It can also you can consider it when we talk about separate or reignite reuniting the theater and the temple. This also swings the way towards film. You know, what kind of films are we talking about? You know,
Hmm.
um, you if we um, Fritz Lang or Orson Welles, right? You're not going to compare that to some of the bubblegum garbage that's typically on at the theater.
Hmm. Yeah. An art piece compared to some like bubblegum trash, like
Oh,
whatever is just.
right. And most people aren't going to. Most people are going to flock towards the bubblegum, the
Hmm.
fluff,
Yeah.
the candy, the frosting, the sugar, the feel good ending.
Right.
They want everything explained to them, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
They're uncomfortable
Uncomfortable.
out there in the uncharted waters of cinematography.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't. Yeah. And I'm on the same page with you about cinema. I don't feel as strongly about it that way. To give context, we were talking about video games, and I don't like games that aren't linear, like where it's just a like Grand Theft Auto, where you just like you drive around this big city. And I guess they do, like if you ever play Grand Theft Auto, there's little pointers
Yeah.
that like show you where to go and stuff. So it's not hard to find where you're going, but I prefer more like immersive, like we were talking about Last of Us, like story driven, very linear, walk down this hallway kind of thing. Um, and I guess that's because like I feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm just driving around like in Grand Theft Auto, just like I feel like it's I'm not accomplishing anything. I guess it's a personality thing, you know. I don't ever just go for a walk. I don't ever just go outside. I always go somewhere with an intention, you know. And maybe that's a flaw.
Nah, man. I think it's good if you're using it for a positive to get you going out for a walk. You
Hmm.
change the way you think about it. It's
Oh,
like, you know what, man?
okay.
Every day I'm gonna go for a walk, but and I'm gonna say, for instance, me, I'm gonna go to the cafe just like we met today,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But every day I choose, I'm gonna take down a different way.
Okay.
I'm gonna go down a different street I've not never been to. Even if it takes 5 extra minutes to get to the
Hmm.
cafe, I never want to do the same thing twice. Otherwise, my life isn't that beautiful film. It's just a cheap fucking sitcom, right?
I hear you. Yeah.
I mean, that's we don't want to do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
We want to do something interesting anyway. If Krishna consciousness were wrong, it's the best idea I ever heard. You know, it's uh, why? Because it is about that journey. It is about the journey. It's not about the destination. It doesn't matter if you get there or not. If you don't enjoy the journey, man, you're
Yeah.
wasting each and every moment of time.
I uh I
And
need to hear that. I think I
time's the thing
yeah.
you run out. You can't replace it. It's not like money.
I'm always in such a rush, man. I'm always in such a hurry. Like I always feel like I don't have time. Like which which is, a curse and a blessing because it makes me productive. Like I'm not productive in a sense that I let a lot of things fall through the cracks in terms of taking care of shit. But when it comes to my art and like productivity, I I really try to stay on top of what's important to me and like because memento mori, man, like I remember that I'm going to die. I remember that every morning when I wake up and it scares me and it inspires me.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it's not fun. It's it's pretty my hair's falling out. But that's at the end of the day, maybe I'm happy being unhappy.
Uh
It's a hard thing. I don't know. Like I guess it could just chill and calm down, but like that's just a hard thing for me to do. I want to accomplish things with my life. I want to contribute to the world in the most major way I can, help out as much as I can in my own feeble way, but make as much of an impact in a positive way for the world. And if I'm not doing that all the time, I feel like I'm wasting my time and it scares me. But I guess I do need to just take a walk sometimes also.
probably that's everyone now, right? Because of the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, expectations for yourself and like it's all an illusion. Like you don't have to accomplish anything and that's fine. But it's not fine for me for some reason.
Well, sex is popular.
It's pretty popular. It's been a popular thing for quite a long time, yeah.
Indeed. So let's talk about it. Right? You could always safely watch sex on the internet, or you could experience sex in the flesh, right?
Yeah,
That's the difference.
right. Like, okay. Yeah, you could watch
Just
porn
like you can play a video game and fight war,
or you could fucking do it.
or you can do it right. It could be the extreme opposite negative.
Yeah, I hear you.
Same with religion. That is the differentiation uh, between Occidental theater and Western theater, isn't it?
Okay, I hear you, man. Yeah, they're playing at something that some other people are really doing.
Absolutely.
It's a fair weather Christians, a Sunday Christian, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not going to give up their wealth and follow Jesus.
no,
And even push come to shove as followers, not by choice were they going to follow him to the cross. You know, who would do that? He wouldn't do that on purpose. No
Mm,
one would.
yeah.
So it's and obviously having Joel Osteen or whoever, right, stand up and claim to be authority and
He's
speak on Christ behest, right?
he's the evangelist, right?
Sure,
Televangelist.
yes, from Texas,
I'm
right?
familiar. Yeah, I know who you're speaking of.
Uh, is that's the satanic behavior.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's much more successful than Crowley's methods.
Oof, burned to Crowley. Yeah, no, it's true. Well, Satan's an interesting thing. I would consider myself a Satanist, but when I talk about Satan, that means a different thing to me than it does to a lot of people. What Satan means to me personally, he, well, I don't know if you knew this, but Lucifer literally means the shining one, illumination. He's the light bringer. He, here, take my fruit. That's that's my God right there, because he took the forbidden, hidden things and gave it to us.